Welcome to another edition of Nostalgia Alley from the Secret Mountain headquarters here at SOMA TV. We have a fabulous guest. I met Michael Pilla at a book signing at Words Bookstore. We only meet the finest people at Words Bookstore. He has written an exciting book entitled You Ought to Be in Business, a practical guide to self-employment. In today's world, when people are being laid off and you don't know where the next meal is coming, people living from paycheck to paycheck, this is a practical guide to finding self-employment. Let me tell you a little bit about Michael. Is a digital marketing consultant born and bred in the Bronx. Let's hear it for the Bronx.
Right, yes.
Bronx, New York. Only the finest people from the Bronx.
Of course, they're from the Bronx, but that's okay. You know?
Absolutely. After graduating the Pratt Institute, he started his professional career as a graphic designer, gradually worked his way up the ladder to art director, creative director, and ultimately his own business, which is the title of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
He started his own firm to bring the power of digital marketing to small businesses. He is an authorized local expert and consulting contact for workshops in social media and email marketing. He lives in New Jersey with his wife, Deborah.
Yes,
Great.
Not far from here. Yes.
Michael, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, what's interesting, you talk about, I started my business a number of years ago, and people now are looking to start their own business. And when I did it, it wasn't as popular as it is now. And we used to go to great lengths to pretend we had a real company. So at one point, I actually leased space from like a defunct ad agency. I leased a cubicle with about 7 other entrepreneurs, and we would pretend to be each other's staff. When someone would show up, we would. So it's just how now when I meet clients, they assume they're going to have to go out on their own at some point. So they're actually interested in hearing my experiences and my take on how and why I started my business. What inspired the book was when I started, all the books I found on entrepreneurship were written by former corporate executives with seed money and contacts and resources. And I literally had a computer on a card table, and I was working in my pajamas in my living room. So it's like, how do I go from here to there? What are the steps of basically getting out of the living room?
Exactly.
And I had to find a lot of this out by myself and talking to other entrepreneurs. And from talking to people who want to start their business, I realized there are more people in my situation than there might be in the former corporate executive situation.
Now, it makes it easy to, I shouldn't say easy, but it's for the average person who wants to start off a business.
Right.
And you go through emotional stages
Yes.
As an entrepreneur, going through euphoria, denial, panic, bargaining, billing.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about.
Well,
what
they're
the
the 5 stages of grief. Anger, denial, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. So I sort of adapted those for entrepreneurship. So euphoria is when you're first starting out. You're all happy and excited. You're on your own. You're free. Next comes denial, where you try not to admit that your situation has changed, that you still try to live the same lifestyle you did maybe when you were drawing a paycheck. Panic is when you wake up in the middle of the night screaming, I have no job, I have no job, I have no job. When it finally sinks in that you've basically cut the ties and you're out there on your own. We then move on to bargaining, where you sort of bargain with yourself. Maybe I won't go out for lunch, I won't rent an office, I'll work out of the house. You start to basically accommodate yourself to your situation. Acceptance is when you just basically, decide, well, this is it, let me get this to work. And of course, the final stage in all this is billing, when someone actually pays you for what you've been doing. And it's sort of like the verification from the universe that you're on the right track.
It's that thrill of the first payment.
Right.
Sort of justifies all the blood, sweat, and tears.
That trip to the mailbox, yes. I still get excited when I see an envelope, yes.
How do you keep up the enthusiasm? I mean, is it through networking with other people?
I do a lot of that, yes. I do a lot of networking, both online and offline. I really like what I do. I'm in a creative field, so in essence, there's something new every day. The digital marketing field in particular, there's always a new platform, a new technique, a new something. When I started, I was, for instance, heavily into web development. I've moved very much into social media. So there's always something new to learn, something new to bring to people.
Digital marketing. Now, you know, we're in an analog world, turn to digital.
Right.
What is digital marketing compared to the old type of marketing? What are the two differences?
It's mostly a matter of technology, of course. The basic principles are the same in the sense that you're still building business relationships, although this digital marketing is less involved with selling per se than it is more involved with creating relationships. It's having people getting to know you before they need you. It's building that know, like, and trust. People get to know you, they get to like you, they get to trust you, so that when they do need you, you know, you're the one they think of.
I imagine trust is a very important factor.
Yes,
because
exactly.
They have to like you and so forth.
The most important word in digital marketing is authenticity, and that you really need to be yourself, because a lot of digital marketing is, I mean, it's perfect for niche marketing, and a lot of the successful people basically found their niche and really worked it. And to work a niche, you have to be authentically yourself. That's what I meant before when I said it's not so much about selling as it is about bonding with potential customers.
Now, in your business, you have to be a diplomat. Let's say you have an idea.
Right.
And it's 100% how to market. Your client says, you know, I don't think I like that. How do you make that adjustment?
That's always the challenge, especially in a creative field, because everything looks good in somebody's head. You know, it's my job is to see, well, what's it going to look like in real life before we go too far down the road. I've actually learned how to deal with such situations from a guy on television, the dog whisperer, Cesar Ramon.
How does that blend in?
Cesar Ramon talks about being a pack leader. I mean, he's talking about basically getting your dog to follow you around. But he started talking about being a pack leader and about how pack leader doesn't explain, pack leader doesn't ask permission, pack leader is calm and assertive. And I've actually found by just being calm and assertive and rather self-assured, and it goes back to creating that area of trust, that if I approach it that way, I'm more likely than not to get the client to at least hear me out.
How do you get people to take the big leap into doing their own business? There's a certain fear. I'd be scared to death. How do you overcome a person's fear?
That's something everybody has to work on. For me, it was a frustration. I really wasn't getting where I wanted to be in my career. And interestingly enough, as I was looking for jobs, I initially started by looking for other means of employment. I wasn't finding jobs, I was finding clients. So I couldn't find anybody to hire me, but I was finding people who wanted to work with me. So I sort of took that as a message from the universe that maybe that's the direction I should be taking. I was afraid. I was fortunate enough at the time to be married, so we did have a second income. So that sort of took a little bit of the edge off. But it's really a personal decision. It's not, there's no real formula. It's you really have to be the kind of person that's willing to take that risk, at least even in the short term.
Now, you're in a business and you need cash flow.
Right.
So you would look for investors. What is a pitfall of working with an investor and keeping your creative theme?
Right. Well, I was fortunate enough in that I was able to freelance for a couple of years before I started my business. So I had clients ready, I had some cash ready, so I was able to self-finance to a certain degree. I have had friends who've had difficulty with investors in the sense that basically at some point they get somewhat impatient. And even though in the beginning people may tell you, sure, take your time, we want to do this right, we'll lend you the money, we understand what the situation is, generally, there's always that risk that they could pull that plug out from under you because they saw a better opportunity or they want to do something else with the money they lent you. I've actually had a couple of clients who basically went out of business simply because their investment money dried up.
I imagine networking terribly important.
Yes.
Tell us about how you get into a networking situation to keep the business. Like, for instance, when I say networking, people that you know that would recommend you to other people, getting an inner circle of people that would kind of...
It's a lot of... They used to be called schmoozing.
Schmoozing.
I go back to the days
old
of
Jewish
schmoozing,
term, right?
where it was a lot less formal than it is now.
Bowl of chicken soup, and you schmooze, right?
Or a white wine spritzer or something. Actually, it used to be scotch. Now it's all white wine spritzers.
Right.
But I mean, now people write books about networking. Networking's become very formalized.
I know.
But in the old days, it was you went out, you didn't even talk business. You went out, you got to know somebody, you had a few laughs. Then if everything went well, a couple months later, somebody would call with a job. Nowadays, it's more, they're like people who go to networking events every night.
Every night, yeah.
There's a certain kabuki to the whole networking thing, You need your drink, you need your name tag,
Sure.
You need your elevator pitch,
Sure.
It's very complicated. It's like, I say it's sort of like, it's like part speed dating, part circus, and part scavenger hunt, basically, yes.
Now imagine a mild sense of humor.
Yeah.
There's a mild sense of humor of desperation.
A mild sense. It says right. A mild sense. That's what I started with. I
desperation.
started with a dream, a laptop, and a mild sense of desperation. Yeah.
Do you remember your very first client, the very first person who hooked up with you?
Yeah. I mean, the first real client was basically through my job. At the time, I was working for Book of the Month Club, and the editor of Book of the Month Club, her husband had a film company. And that was my first client. I was doing graphic design work for this film company. And I did posters, brochures, what have you.
Right. Book of the Month? I don't know if it's
around
anymore. Is
they're
it
trying to bring it back as an online thing. But yeah. No, I know. It was actually a very good education in direct marketing.
I imagine.
But you're right. It was because it's like, nobody thinks of that anymore.
I was very bad in school. You'd have to do a term paper on some classic novel.
Right.
I would get the comic version.
Oh,
of the
yeah,
novel.
those were great, actually.
I would read it,
those.
and then I would write my term paper.
The classic comics.
The classic.
I used to have a
remember
whole
that?
collection of those.
My
yeah.
God,
I love those.
That was great.
Yeah.
We have about a little under 2 minutes, but one of the things I want to discuss, and this is, you always try to get a teaser so these people will come back, after our public service announcement.
Right.
But what we're going to talk about, the Four Horsemen. I love the Four Horsemen. That's very intriguing.
Right.
Cash management, client acquisition, project manager, and most important, client management.
Right.
And we're going to do that in a second. Did you find it a challenge to write the book? I mean, was it the trial and error?
Yes and no. I had a whole bunch of pieces. I had ideas. I know I wanted to write a book, but I didn't sit down to start to write a book because I also do some like article writing and essays. So I've been writing on and off for many, many years. So I basically started up by writing individual pieces about these individual topics. Then about 2-3 years ago, I started to stitch it together into a book. So an interesting thing happened. So I sent it out to a bunch of, I had the manuscript about 90% done. I sent it out to a bunch of literary agents. I got one reply. No, it was a rejection, but it was like the best rejection letter ever. Because they literally said, we love the book, we love the material, it's dead on, it's funny as hell, it's just great stuff. But who the hell are you?
Yeah,
we can't sell this book.
It's a nice way to do it,
Nobody knows who you are.
Anyway, we got to cut for a public service announcement.
Oh, good.
And then we're going to come back for the Four Horsemen.
Right.
Don't touch that dial.
After 17 years working as a mason, Mike was laid off. I met him when he came into the library looking for help. He found a job opening, but the application was only online. Mike said he'd spent his entire life around tools, but had never used a computer. I showed him how, and he ended up applying for numerous jobs online. I saw Mike the other day. His new computer skills paid off. He's working again.
New Jersey libraries are transforming lives. Tell us your story.
We are back. Michael Pilla, the exciting new book, You Ought to Be in Pictures, a practical guide for self-employment. I love the title, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's a takeoff on that old song.
You ought to be in pictures.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Well, anyway, you're talking about pictures, and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Right. These are the 4
and you
horsemen.
got a different
the
horseman
4 horsemen
here.
of entrepreneurship.
Tell us about the 4 horsemen.
And it's like the 4 horsemen are. I needed an organizing principle in my own head to get a hold of what are the most important things an entrepreneur has to keep track of. And I thought of the 4 horsemen, like I said, the apocalypse, and basically, if they show up, that's the harbinger of disaster. And likewise, not taking care of these 4 horsemen, they'll pillage your entrepreneurial landscape if you're not careful. So the 4 horsemen are cash management, obviously, go and manage your cash flow, client acquisition, because you always need new clients, you need that pipeline going all the time, project management, basically. Once you get all this work, that kind of what horrified me. I would do this whole business development thing, and then this work would come in, and I would say, "Oh my God, and now I have to get it done." So that's where project management comes in. And then finally, something I don't read a lot about or hear a lot about is as we discussed before, client management, managing the client relationship.
Is that the most difficult of the 4?
It's the most delicate.
The most
and
delicate.
I think in a way it's the most important because there are always problems. Nothing goes smoothly, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault, but there's always going to be bump in the roads. And I find that if you don't have some sort of relationship with the client, those bumps in the roads could be fatal.
Right.
So you need that sort of, we talked about trust before.
Exactly.
You need that goodwill to sort of tide you over.
Let's start with a couple. Project management. What does that mean, and how do you do it?
Well, it's getting the work done.
Okay.
And it's basically, there are, if you work for a corporation or a company, there are project managers, and their entire reason for being is to set schedules and set deadlines and make sure those milestones are met. If you're the boss, if you're working for yourself, there's no one there doing that for you. So it's very easy to sort of overlook that aspect of the job. And, if work is not completed on time, you're not able to bill, you're not, so that affects cash flow. If the client gets upset, that affects your client relationship. So it's one of the crucial, horsemen, as it were. And I find the key there is to know how to delegate. You need to be organized with your own time. You need to manage your time properly, and you need to delegate wherever possible. So basically, the point is to keep things moving.
And be sure to give yourself a raise.
Give yourself a raise. Well,
that's important.
Well, there's that. Well, that's under right one of the other. But no, it's also the other way I look at it is take the problems that are on my desk and put them on somebody else's. That's basically the entire.
That sounds good.
Right. Yes.
That sounds good.
Right.
Cash management is that
cash
that
flow,
must be
cash
pretty
management.
hard to
That's
flow.
always difficult because especially if you don't have a good pipeline, it's very difficult to predict. So it's a lot of it is again getting projects completed on time so you can bill on a consistent basis, and also watching expenses. Being very careful with what you, especially in the technology area. There's always another widget. There's always another software. There's always another something that you can buy. Nowadays, a lot of software companies have subscription programs.
What is that exactly?
So instead of buying something outright, like instead of spending $1,000 for a software package, they will charge you, say, $20 a month to use it. Basically to make use of it as much as you want. But they kind of add up. If you sign up for 5 or 6 of these things, you could have an additional $400 to $500 in your monthly expenses.
What do you think the hardest thing is when you start your own business? If you had to kind of zero it down on 1 or 2 things, what is the hardest thing? Because people freak out when they say, "I got to start my own business." Wow,
The first is actually client acquisition, getting clients. Generally, if you started a business, you probably had clients to begin with. So there's that first wave of clients that kind of gets your boat afloat, as it were. But those projects are going to end. Those relationships are going to change. What do you do next? So the key there is to constantly be looking for new clients. There's the line in Glenn Ross. I don't know if you remember the movie.
Sure
with Alan Baldwin.
Yeah.
Always be ABC. Always be closing.
Yeah.
That's basically what this is about. You should always be closing new business. I had a gentleman who was a photo retoucher who gave me the best piece of advice as far as this is concerned. And he said, always go out on sales calls when you're busy. Don't wait till you're not busy. Because from that initial sales call to an actual invoice, that could be 6 months.
True.
So he said he always made time to see people when he didn't have time. And that basically kept him going.
There's a very intriguing thing that you have here. It's called hiring your pets.
Yes, hiring your pets.
I love it.
Find something for them to do, right? Because this goes back to delegating and getting as much help as you can. You know, the best, of course, is like a relative. If you have a relative, that's
cheap,
great.
yeah.
Works cheap.
Yeah.
Next would be a pet. Like we had a black toy poodle named Decker. And Decker would spend his time, I worked out of the house. I worked in the attic, which is on the 3rd floor. Decker was in charge of the 1st floor, And he basically acted as the concierge. So he would tell me when the mail was delivered. He'd tell me if there was someone at the door, if there's something downstairs I should pay attention to. He would let me know if there were squirrels chewing away at the cable outside. And he'd let me know when it's lunchtime. And most importantly, he'd let me know when it was time to go outside.
So you promoted him to vice president? Is that how it worked?
He was president. I was CEO.
Okay.
And he was president.
Salary was pretty fair.
He
right?
was, yes. As long as we shared lunch, he was happy.
A couple of milk bone dog biscuits, and he's
well,
your
no,
friend
he was a
for
little
life?
pickier than that.
A little pickier. Oh,
whatever I was eating, he was eating. And actually, he's the only dog I've seen that actually liked coffee.
Like coffee?
He liked coffee. I found him once with his head in my cup, and I asked the vet, and the vet said there's really no harm. So I would have coffee. I'd make him a little cup.
I love it.
We would have our moments.
So they worked nights. You give him a hug.
It worked. Yes,
he was
tireless. Yes, he was tireless.
Wow. He was. Any pitfalls that I don't want to go on a low note, but people worry. What could happen? How do you overcome it? Psychologically.
It's that panic when you first hit that pause in your cash flow. Where maybe there's some bills due and money's not coming in and you're not quite sure where it's going to come in. That's kind of like the big panic moment for most people. That's because cash flow can be somewhat irregular. That's the biggest problem I faced. That unless you have a number of clients on retainer, and it goes back to controlling your expenses, you're going to hit bumps in the road as far as your cash flow goes. And that's always like the moment of truth. Can you pull yourself together enough to go find that extra client or just weather the storm or, you go through a few weeks of not answering the phone without checking caller ID, just people are calling you for money, you selectively pick up the phone,
How did your marketing skills help you market this book?
Well, we're currently marketing the book. I'm going to try and market it as a Christmas present.
Great idea.
Basically, for people who have kids at home, who have no jobs.
Put the kids to work, and
exactly.
You have your whole.
You want to get that kid out of your basement?
Yeah.
Here's a way.
You want that Nintendo? I'm dating myself. It's probably more advanced, advanced games than that.
I've also, but it's funny how just word of mouth. I've found a number of people. Today I got my hair cut. The woman who cut my hair wants to start her own business. She's buying a copy of the book.
Terrific.
So it's clearly something that's in the air that a lot of people are interested in, and again, I purposely wrote the book to be easy to read, to be very matter of fact, very straightforward. So I like to think of the book as a food for thought. These are the kind of things you need to consider. And if you want more details, there's plenty of other books that'll fill in whatever gaps there are. But this is basically a really good practical outline of the kind of things. Right. It's like a starting point.
We're overcomplicated society, and you get these books, and it's so complicated you can't figure it out. This is a good book because it teaches you in a simple way how to achieve your particular goal.
Right.
I just. How long did it take to write?
It took a couple of years on and off. But again, I wrote it in pieces. I mean, it's not like I was, toiling away for 2 years straight. It was, here and there, like most authors. You write when you've got the time, so.
Now, I met you at Word. You had a book signing.
Right.
I had to wait online for a couple of hours to get in.
I know. When I walked out the door down the block,
it was hard.
It was really.
But
in the cold too. These people were amazing.
They were 3-4 hours.
I know. I was really touched.
I was lucky I got in.
I wound up buying them hot chocolate. Really, I just did.
That's good. That's marketing. You buy them hot chocolate. You got marketing.
Right.
And I understand you do lectures and presentations.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you're
well,
doing.
like I said, you said in the bio, I'm an authorized local expert for Constant Contact, the email marketing social media company. So as an expert for them, I do seminars and workshops for local small business people, basically giving them the power of the internet, basically showing them how to get the most out of their email marketing and social media. And just what I wound up doing is dispelling a lot of myths. People, again, think this is a lot more complicated than it is. There's a lot of buzzwords. There's a lot of concern that, oh, this is something I need to do, but I don't have the time to get into it. So basically, I sort of guide them through the best practices of social media and email marketing.
It's a good book to overcome your fear, because there's an inertia. You're like, oh God, I got to start my own. How am I going to do it?
Right. Where do I start? Who do I talk to?
This is a very good book in explaining that.
Right.
If people want to get in contact with you, let's give out your email address.
My email address is Michael. Surprise! It's my name again. Michael.
It's a great name, by the way, Michael.
Exactly. I have to.
Congratulations on a fabulous name.
I had nothing to do with it, but I will pass that on to Mom. Michael, Michael at Pilla. Again, like my name, Pilla, Pilla, CM for creativemarketing.com. So the email address is Michael at PillaCM.com.
Great, and what I love about what you do, you have a sense of humor, because if you don't have a sense of humor, forget about it.
I know. That's gotten me through many a moment.
As they say in The Sopranos, forget about it.
Yeah, right, yes. Right.
Well, it's great having you on the show. We have a couple of more minutes, and did you have a client that was particularly challenging that you had? Tell me very briefly in about a minute.
A guy named Harry was in real estate. He was a real pit bull, literally a pit bull, and he would just yell at people all the time. And again, I used the method of being the pack leader, and we wanted to know how we were doing on a particular brochure. I literally just, like I'm doing now, I looked him in the eye and I just said, "Well, Harry, these are the changes you asked for last time, and this is what we discussed, and this was," and I ran through the whole thing, and he was just kind of like quietly listened to me, and at the end he kind of went, "Oh," like he was surprised, like he was hypnotized or something.
That's terrific. Anyway, one more time, you ought to be in business, a practical, and I like that,
right,
practical guide for self-employment. Michael Pilla, great to have you on the show.
It was great being here. I want to thank you.
Your next appearance, we're going to have to spend another 3 hours to get in? Can you get me in the back door?
I'll get you a coupon.
Get me in the back door.
No, you can go right to the front of the line.
I can?
I'll get you a coupon. There'll be a velvet rope and a bouncer. Just tell him you're with me. He'll let you right in.
Sounds great. Okay. Anyway, thanks for being on the show. Sure. A very exciting book. It's the buzz of the literary circuit. You ought to be in business. It gets my 4-star rating.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, since you came in from the bad weather, it's a 5-star rating.
I get an extra star.
I get an extra star.
You get an extra hot chocolate.
Oh, wow, boy. Anyway, this is Mike Sobel saying good night to you, and especially to you. Good night.